Welcome. My name is Joyce Schnorr. I am with Kaplan, and I'm happy to present today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. You should see on your screen preparing for the 2014 CFP certification exam. The phone lines are in listen-only mode. However, you do have the ability to ask questions as I go through the presentation, and I highly encourage that you do by typing in questions on the question box that's in the control panel. You should see that control panel on your screen, and you might find that the control panel is too large and covering up some information on your screen. So you can always click on the orange arrow key to minimize the control panel and move it around your screen so it's not covering up any pertinent information. And anytime you want to ask a question, simply click on the orange arrow key, expand it, type a question into the question box, and I'd be happy to answer that as we go through the presentation today. So with that, I would like to go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you very much for choosing Kaplan to be the provider for your exam prep for the CFP certification exam. We have been working with students such as yourself for a long period of time and have put a program together. When you follow the program, I'm really proud of the results that we have had. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The agenda today is going to be fairly simple. We are going to talk about how to get started in your preparation for the exam that will be coming up in July, the various reading materials, the practice questions, video resources that you have available to you, and some other online tools. If you are taking a class with us, what to expect in class as well. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is the steps to success. It is our 12-week study planner. It takes you through week by week what our process is, what items you should be reviewing in order to be prepared for the exam. It is available. I'll show you the link on the website where you can print it out, or if you have the hard copy. And really, this should be your go-to resource for your agenda as you plan over the next 7 weeks. So we'll get back to that in a little bit. So first of all, make sure that you're aware of that document. And again, I'll show you where to find it here in just a second. The second thing that you've probably noticed is the reading materials that have been made available to you. So there are a couple of different things that I wanted to discuss here. We have the study volumes, volumes 1 through 6, which each one of those study volumes takes a major subject area of the CFP certification exam. So fundamentals book, insurance book, investments, tax, retirement, and estate. These are in outline form. They are meant to jog your memory back from the education courses that you took on the various topics and learning objectives that we're required to teach you in the education courses. So the way that I approach those books is as you go through your study plan, you might read a certain section and it should jog your memory. Okay, I remember this topic. I remember this. Check this off. Check this off. You know what? This subject, I might not know as well. And you might want to go back and reinforce that with some questions that I'm going to show you, or maybe go back to your education materials. One thing that I will tell you is that in that first volume, there is the ethics portion and the practice standards. All of those are very highly testable in the exam, so make sure you are comfortable with all of that material in the first course. It's been a while if you were in an education course that you might have studied that, and so many of our students come out of the exam and say, wow, there was a lot of questions on the fundamentals, on the practice standards, and so forth. Volume 7 is our casebook. Sometimes people get weary by the time they've read through the other 6 books and don't spend enough time in the cases. That's a bad idea. The cases are there for you to read numerous pages of data about a particular client. Then there are 10, 15, 20 practice questions associated with that. It makes you think question to question on different type of learning objectives. It trains you really well for what the real experience is in the CFP exam. So make sure you take the time necessary to go through the cases. For those of you taking a class with us, you'll receive an in-class study guide. Read through that study guide, highlight it, mark it, turn the pages down of the particular areas that you want help in class. And then also, for those of you that may need some additional assistance with the understanding your financial calculator, if you didn't get that book in one of the education courses, or perhaps you're just a review student with us, if you struggle with the calculator, you might want to utilize that book. It's referenced in our materials. And also the Ethics and Professional Conduct book that the CFP board makes available. So those are the reading materials. You also have a number of online assets and practice questions. And we have a diagnostic exam, we have a question bank, we have a mock exam, we have cognitive connections. All of those are meant as a process as you go through your preparation for the exam. The diagnostic, do this first, understand really where you are in the curriculum, what you know and what you don't know. And as you go through the various weeks and you go through the various study volumes, reinforce those topics with the question banks. You get later into the process, about week 8, 9, you should start taking mock exams. And we have the last set of really hardcore questions that we call cognitive connections. Now, what I thought I would do is stop here for a second and actually take you out to the site to show you where a lot of these resources are located. So if you just give me a second, and I will do that. So here I am. Hopefully you all can see this. Hold on, here we go. On your screen. And I am actually on the, on the website. And I've already logged in. So I've logged in. You can see up here on the right, I would log out, that same button there. So I'm logged in. And in order for me to find the various materials, over here is my CFP button, and you can see I have my cursor over it, and it shows in the drop-down box what courses and programs are available to me. So I'm in the EPR July exam. You can see that the exam dates are July 18th and 19th, and the registration deadline, very important, is June the 10th. You must register with the CFP board. So on the right-hand side of our screen, we have information for you, as I've just mentioned, with the exam date and the registration deadline. And the exam tips to success, or exam steps to success, that study calendar that I talked about, the PDF is right here. So if you looked at this study planner, going back to the very first week, it will tell you what do you need to do. Be familiar, do the online diagnostic exam, start reading Fundamentals, Volume 1. There's core lecture videos associated with it. It gives you kind of a check-by-check box and also provides you the ability to take notes of things that you want to look at. So that's the study planner that I talked about. Make sure that you've utilized that. I'm also going to be showing you today how to use some of these tools. If you forget this, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's some demo videos that you might want to go back and watch how to use some of these tools if you don't get it today. But most of the content that you'll be accessing is on the left-hand side of your screen. So let's talk about this for a moment. On the left-hand side, you are going to see a welcome, basic admin type of stuff, downloads if you don't have Adobe, your account, and so forth. And then you're going to see, I'm going to scroll up here on the screen, a number of different sections. Cognitive connections, that's the about 270 questions that you take later in the course, probably weeks 9 or 10, they're more difficult questions. For the live review class, we have pre-study videos. We also have, if you're in one of the classes, the cases that we talked about in Volume 7, we actually run through some of those cases in video to make sure that you're following those. A mock exam we do as well. If you're going to access our virtual class, this is where you would do it on the left-hand side. There's the diagnostic exam, there's the mock exam, and there's the question bank. So 4 different places to get questions. So the first thing that you would do is do the diagnostic exam, and I'm simply going to put my button over that and hit Start Exam, and then I would start that online exam. That's the first thing that you should be doing in week 1. It's 100 questions, and it's going to give you an assessment of where you sit with the rest of the curriculum. Once you do that in week 1, you'll start reading various sections, and it will tell you to go into the Schweizer Pro Q Bank. So I'm going to go into quiz management, and as you can see, this is a demo account. I've done a lot of different demos of the program. I can create a customized quiz for myself. I'm going to hit New Question, and I say that I'm studying in Volume 1. Oh, I'm studying about time value of money, education funding, and personal financial statements. I want to move my cursor down, the whole way down the screen. As you can see, there's all the different subject matters that you can choose to do as well. I'm going to call this Quiz 8. I'm going to ask it to give me 20 questions. And there's a button here called Advanced Quiz Options. I always tell people to click on that button. You can give yourself basic, intermediate, advanced questions. I like it to score as I go to see if what I'm getting right and wrong. And I like to display the answer. So I get that immediate feedback and rationale of why I got the question right or perhaps why I got it wrong. I can create a printable quiz so that I can print it out and take it with me on a plane, train as I'm sitting there, or I can create the electronic quiz. So here's the first question. I'm just going to choose A and see what it tells me. And it says, oh, here we go. My answer was correct. It gives me a bit of a rationale for that as well. I'm going to go on to the next question just for illustrative purposes. I am going to choose A again, and it's going to tell me my answer was incorrect, which one was the correct answer, and why that is. And I think this is an important part of your learning. That's why I like to score as I go. You answer the question and you get immediate feedback whether you're right or wrong. And as you continue, you can go through all of this again. I'll choose A again. It's going to tell me why it was C and so forth. At any time, I can either finish up this, or I can go back to my management of my quizzes here. So quiz management. As you can see, I've got a number of that Quiz 8 that I just have in there for my demo. I could continue that and all the other ones that I have in here as well. And then I can find out, once I've completed them, review them, how I've done. I can print them out. I can rename them. I can delete them, and so forth. So the question bank you will be utilizing as you go through the process. Really, one thing that I always like to point out, though, the question bank is one aspect of what you do. You have to read through the volumes and understand the curriculum. Don't just to go in and create a bunch of questions. You really have to understand the content. And so therefore, we really suggest that you read through the content. We're going to talk about video resources here for you in a minute as well, and the question bank. So once you are working through the questions in the question bank later in the course, again, about weeks 8, 9, you can start doing mock exam. So I'll click on the mock exam, and there are 3 different mock exams, just like the July exam has 3 different sections, 4 hours on Friday, 2 hours on, 2 sessions, 3 hours each on Saturday. We have 3 different mock exams, and we suggest that you take those in about, weeks 9, 10, 12, heading up to the exam. And truly simulate it. Give yourself the same amount of time, whether it's a 4-hour or 3-hour session. Do it all at the time. Really make sure that you understand the exam experience, because time management is really critical to being successful on the exam as well. And then the last set of questions we have is the cognitive connections. And again, I can click on the quiz management. I can create a new quiz like I had shown you before. There's 286 questions in there. These are the highly advanced cognitive type questions that put together, multiple learning objectives and so forth. So you want to do these later on as you go through your course of study. So just to reiterate, the 4 places that you get questions: number 1, you do the diagnostic exam. Number 2, you do the question bank as you go through your course of study. You complete the mock exams, and you complete the cognitive connections later in your course of study. So those are the 4 places to get questions. And again, you find all of those on the left-hand navigation. So any questions for me on the question bank before we go on to the video resources? So again, any questions that you have, type them into the question box, and I'll be happy to answer them as I go through the presentation. Okay, so with that, let's talk about video resources. So some of you may have chosen just to purchase the books and the question bank. Some of you may be adding a class to that. So if you're adding a class to that, we have pre-study videos that are topics, I'll click on that here, that are, fairly basic to the curriculum. It's things that you should know already going into the review. Remember, the review class that you take is going to be fast and furious, and your instructor is going to go through the most difficult topics, the most highly testable topics, to get you prepared for those. But, as you know, there's 70-some learning objectives, and you may see, 1 or 2 questions on some of these other topics that you need to know, but they're not going to be a huge focus of the exam. So that's the pre-review videos. And then we also do case videos. So we take a couple of the cases that are in your Volume 7 just to get you acclimated of how we think you should approach the case. So people find those very helpful as well. And then we also have a mock exam video, an overview and a strategy for taking the section of the mock exam. Again, very helpful for you from that perspective. So those are the various videos that are available for you. And then, of course, if you are in the virtual class, over on the left-hand navigation, you'll see a link for the virtual class. The syllabi here, just a reinforcement of the job task domains, the learning objectives that the CFP board is required that we teach you in the education. And then also the investments formula page and the tax, retirement, and estates page there for you as well. If you are in the virtual class, this is where you actually access the virtual class. You can see the first one isn't until June 11th, but this hot link over here that says virtual review class number 1, that's where you will access the class. If you can't attend a class live, that once the class has ended, we put an archived link up there really by the next morning, and you should be able to watch that class. If you're interested in taking notes via the slides, you can print off the slides as well. 2 schools of thought here. Some people, because the slides are nice summaries, they take notes on those. Some people use the in-class guide to take the notes in the book. So whatever methodology works for you. And that is, if you're in the virtual class, that's where you'll access this. So a couple of things that I want to address here. When it comes to getting help for your questions. If you're in a class, obviously, whether it's the virtual class or you're in one of our live 4-day class sessions, come prepared with your questions for the instructors. They are more than happy to answer your questions, but they may tell you from time to time either that question is way out of scope or they don't think something like that will be tested, because they're there for the most impact to get you prepared. So therefore, think about your questions, be prepared, ask them, and they're there to help. We also have a couple of other opportunities for you here on the left-hand side, and that's the instructor email access. That email box is manned by our full-time subject matter staff, and they will get back to you via email on those questions that you have. And then we also have down here under online tools the InstructorLed office hours. And we offer them several times. Here's one today, and that it's live and you can ask questions, get them answered, and so forth. So take advantage of that InstructorLed office hours. This link at the top that says EPR chat, that's actually where you access those. So you can get help via instructor email during your classes and the InstructorLed office hours that we have each and every week. So with that, I have a couple of questions that have come in, and I'm going to answer them before we move on. And I think, specifically, or what you purchased, if you've purchased the books, which is the volume set and the question banks, you're not going to see all of the class resources there, so that might be different. So if you take a class, you'll have the videos and so forth there. So Melanie, I'll be happy to get back to you about that. Let's see. Another question. Can you elaborate more on the mock exam videos? It's just prep and pointers. Not sure what it covers. Actually, that mock exam video takes you through one section of the mock exam, the one that we have online, and tells you, here's the questions. This is the correct answers of all of them. This is why they're the correct answers. So it's not just how to prepare for the mock exam. It actually takes you through the answers of those questions in the mock exam. Okay, so good question. All right. Okay, so someone else has said they're not actually taking the July exam, they're taking the November exam. And so just a couple of words on that. The July exam, I think, is probably, most of you are aware, is the last paper-based test that the board is going to be offering, as I indicated, the 4-hour session on Friday and 2 3-hour sessions on Saturday. It will consist of 285 questions, and that's what the mock exam currently shows you. For those of you that are taking the November exam is going to be the first computer-based test. It is going to be 2 3-hour sessions for a total of 170 questions, and it is offered, I believe it is the week of November the 18th. They just actually came out with the dates over a 5-day period of time. Our strategy for those students who might be taking the November exam is really no different than those of you that are taking July with the 285 questions. The exam difficulty is still at the same level. Yes, there will be less questions. There will be case studies associated with it. So our program in November will look slightly different because it will only have 2 sessions for a mock, not 3. But all of the same questions are going to be in the question bank, and the cognitive connections are going to be, accumulated as well. And because it's the same topics and learning objectives that are going to be tested, just a smaller amount of them. And you don't really know what's going to be tested or not. So that's our approach for the November exam. Again, same learning objectives, same program. You have to understand what the CFP board does. They have what's called an exam administration. And the same exam administration that's been in existence through 2012, that means the same learning objectives, are going to continue really through and into 2015. The only time that they change it is once they do a study of CFP holders, and they may come back and tweak the learning objectives, but they keep the exam administration, the same pool of questions and so forth available. It's just going to be a smaller pool in November. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. And then one other thing that actually someone reminded me here in the chat that I like to point out kind of as a highlight before I move off of the web page is showing you the core lecture videos. And these core lecture videos are some of the more difficult topics. So if you need some additional help after class, or you're reading through, let's, for example, look at estate planning, and I'm reading through my volume number 6, and I'm really struggling with the different types of trusts or the concept of income and risk. I can go back and watch some lecture videos on that. As you can see, there's all the subject matter there. But hidden in here is something called exam tips. I really suggest is you'll notice them in the study planner that you have, and I always like to highlight them here, is, our subject matter team and our instructors have kind of gone through the various tools that you have available. It's a video, lecture, how to approach a case study. There's different methods, whether you read the questions first and then go back and find the facts, or whether you read the facts first. Different processes work different for people. We explain those. How to solve multiple choice type of questions. But this video here, which is 47 minutes long, and it seems like it's a very long video, I'm going to click on it here, and it's going to start, is probably the best 47 minutes that you can spend. It has Mike Long, one of our subject matter experts, and Cindy Rickey, who heads up all of our CFP product development, take you through what the exam looks like from the domains and how the board tests. And, I'll kind of move through here and back a little bit. It goes through each of the domains that you learned in your education courses. It shows some questions that the board has released. Mike takes you through the process of getting to the right answer, shows you how to look at these, what's important in the question and so forth. So again, really important to kind of set yourself up well for that. So that all is located in the exam tips section, and it's the CFP exam domains, topics, and questions, and you'll see that as well. Let me make sure I highlighted that also. All right, so I think that covers most what's in the left-hand navigation. We talked about cognitive connections. You're going to do that about week 9, 10, 11. The class, this is where you access the videos. For that, the virtual class, the diagnostic exam you do in week 1, the mock exams that you do kind of in weeks 8, 10, 12, the question banks that you utilize throughout, the online tools, which is those core lecture videos, especially the CFP exam domains topics, office hours, there's a blog out there, and if there's any updates that we want to provide to you, we have a section for you there as well. So that is really the left-hand navigation. Okay. Let's see, a couple more questions here before I move off of that. Let's see, where is the Swayzer Library tab? I think your question, if you're at swayzer.com and you log in, CFP, over here, click down, that's your July exam. The question bank library, if you're talking about that, that's under your Swayzer Pro Q Bank. All right, so with that, I think what I want to do now is go back to I have this presentation running. Let me just close that down. And I want to go back to my screen, and I want to go back into the slide deck. So let me do that. Now I went back to my beginning. All right, so what have we covered? We've covered the reading material. We covered the practice questions, again, diagnostic, the Q Bank, the mock exam, the cognitive connections. We talked about the video resources, pre-review, the core lecture videos. The core lecture videos is what includes that exam tips one, the case videos, and the mock video. We talked a little bit about where you can get some help. Obviously, the instructor email, the instructor-led office hours, FAQs, blogs, and certainly the updates and any errata that we want to provide to you as we go through the class. Now I want to talk a little bit about what to expect in the class. I've alluded to this a little bit. The class is very fast-paced compared to the education courses that you may have taken with us or another provider. Remember, those education courses are there to teach you the basic knowledge. The instructors are there to get you exam ready for the exam in the review course. They're going to focus on highly testable, difficult topics. You may ask a question and they may say, that's way out of scope. You're not going to see a question like that. Or, you need to go back and understand the basics here, and that's where you might do some more questions, or you might need to watch some of the videos and so forth. But I think as far as preparation goes, when you get to the class guide, you really should be reading through that, making topics that you're having difficulty with, and get help when you're in the class. And if you're not getting it within the class, do it for instructor email and the instructor-led office hours. Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, a little bit, what do you need to do now? First of all, make sure you're aware of the June 10th deadline that you need to register with the CFP board. Once you can, complete your education program, your education provider provides that to the board that you've completed it, but you still need to register and create a board account. The exam survival guide, the 12 weeks that we talked about, log into your account, get familiar with the navigation. This has really got to be a priority for you. The students that are successful tell us that they study between 200 and 250 hours during this period of time in order to be prepared. And preparation is really the key. One thing that we will tell you later on, as we get very close, within a week of the exam, you'll get some communications about a stress-free webinar, just kind of final thoughts, final preparations, and so forth. So that's a live session that Cindy and some of her team hold. So you'll get that information for us as well, so look for that. All right, as I said before, we are here to help you. Some of you have worked with our academic advisor team. Their phone number is there for you. You might be working with a designation representative who helped sign you up for the courses. But most importantly, log in, look at your online tools, look at that study calendar, do your diagnostic exam, right away. Watch the video on the exam, how to prepare for the exam, that one that's in the core lecture videos, and really, get started with the curriculum. So with that, I like to, keep this presentation to about a half an hour. I'm usually a little bit over here today, but I'm here as long as you would like for me to answer your questions. Again, other resources available to you. I thank you for choosing Kaplan to be your CFP exam provider, and anything that we can do to help you to be successful, suggestions that you have for us, we are always interested in talking with our students about that. All right, and as I said, I will stay on. I don't have any questions in my question queue, but I think sometimes they come in a little bit later. I will stay on as long as there's questions. For those of you that don't have any questions, if you would like to drop off, feel free to do that. And again, thank you very much.